Okay, this week we're going to be reading a biography, The Boy Who Invented TV. We're going to be learning about Philo Farnsworth and how he came up with an invention that would change the world, clearly, TV. So, our essential question this week: how does technology lead to creative ideas? So, getting into it here. Okay, so looking at this very first section here, life before Philo. Imagine what it was like growing up on a farm in the American West of 1906. With electricity rare out in the country, chores took up most of your day. No refrigerators, no cars, no few phones, hardly any indoor bathrooms. Long distances separated you from friends and relations. Meeting up with others took some effort. You rode a horse or walked. There were trains, but riding or even seeing one was a big deal. Getting news was another challenge. When government leaders were what government leaders were doing in Washington, the latest in the arts and sciences, whether sports teams were winning or losing, new information of any kind, it trickled in haphazardly by mail. Not many people had books and libraries were few and far between. It was all a bit lonely. What about fun? Movies? No. Radio? No. It was only on military ships. There was music if you played your own instruments. There were no malls to go hang out at. When you had enough money saved up to buy a bicycle or roller skates, you ordered from a wish book, the Sears or Roebuck mail order catalog. And there was no television. That's right, no TV. In 1906, inside a log cabin on a farm in Utah, a boy was born who would change things. His name was Philo Taylor Farnsworth. So, how was life in 1906 different from today? You should have said that there were no radios, movies, or televisions. All mail and travel took a long time. News was hard to get. So I can infer that there were no computers and no internet. What does the author, or why do you think the author tells you about life in 1906? So you should have said something like the author tells about life in 1906 to help the reader understand how imaginative Philo Farnsworth must have been to invent something as advanced as television. So something like that, if you said to help us understand more about Philo, all that business. That would be why he told us about life in 1906. No sooner did Philo Farnsworth learn to talk than he asked a question, then another, and another. His parents answered as best they could. Noticing Philo's interest in anything mechanical, his father took the 3-year-old boy to see a train at a station. At first, Philo was afraid this huge, noisy thing might be a monster, but the nice engineer invited the boy up to the cab with him, explaining a bit about how steam powered trains worked. That night, Philo sat at the kitchen table and drew detailed pictures of what on inside the motor of a train. Two new machines captivated Philo as he grew up. One was a hand cranked telephone purchased by a neighbor. Holding the phone one day, hearing the voice of his beloved aunt, 6-year-old Philo got goosebumps. After all, she lived a long ways away. Another neighbor brought a hand cranked phonograph to a dance, music swirling out of a machine. It was almost impossible to believe. These things seemed like magic to me, Philo said later. Besides being incredibly clever, the inventions brought people together in whole new ways. So, what events happened here on page 70 that were important in leading Philo to become the inventor of television? You should have said something like, as soon as he could talk, he asked many questions, right? Asking questions is how we learn things. He became very interested in mechanical things. He didn't just visit a train and go, oh, it was super cool. He's talking all about what it looks like on the motor on the inside and all that. So he's very interested in machines. So that should be a good clue as to where his life is headed. Okay. Philo's father shared his wonder. On clear summer nights, as they lay in the grass and gazed at the stars, his father told him about Alexander Graham Bell and the telephone, Thomas Edison and the phonograph. Inventors, these became Philo's heroes. Away on a temporary job, his father appointed Philo, the oldest of 5 children, the man in the family. Philo was 8. His many chores included feeding the pigs, milking and grazing the cow, fetching wood for the stove. He did get his own pony, Tippy. It was also a sort of reward to skip school for a while. Bullies were teased Bullies there teased him about his unusual name. Shy and serious, Philo didn't fight back. He found it far more appealing to practice reading with his grandmother's Sears Roebuck catalog. It had toys as well as cameras, alarm clocks, and machines that used a new invisible source of power. Electricity, it was called. In his spare time, Philo raised lambs and sold them. When he had enough money saved up, he visited his grandmother to pick a bicycle out of her catalog. But somehow, she talked him into ordering a violin instead. Philo did love the sound of music, its orderly rhythms. And even at age 10, he dreamed of fame. Maybe he could find it by creating music like what he heard on the neighbor's phonograph. Soon he was performing in dance bands, making $5 every Friday night. Playing the violin was one more thing for the bullies to tease him about. Then one day, Philo fought back, and the teasing ended. So, thinking about everything I just read on page 71, how does the author help you visualize what Philo was like as a young boy? You should have said something like the author describes the kind of activities that Philo enjoyed as a young boy. Like he enjoyed reading in order to learn about new things, raising lambs to sell for money, playing music, which also helped him earn money. Tells the reader that as a child, Philo was curious, he was responsible, he was resourceful. Why this information is important? Because it foreshadows, which is like a fancy word for previews, why Philo will be successful as an adult. He's always curious about things. Curiosity in a child is super important because it leads to success later. Do you think Philo felt different from other children? Just looking at page 71, do you think he felt different? Well, I can infer that Philo felt different. The text says that he was shy and serious and that he was bullied because of his name. So during this time, Philo eagerly um, engaged in many activities that the typical kid wouldn't. This is one reason he probably felt different and was bullied because of it. So, let me zoom out here. I'm going to pause there for today and we'll continue reading more about Philo tomorrow.